Hello, everybody. It's Damien Sneed, and I'm super excited about the second episode of Damien Sneed Dialogues. This evening, I will be joined by two phenomenal musicians, performing artists, and human beings. I'd first like to introduce my first guest, Harolyn Blackwell. How are you?
I'm fine, Damien. Thank you so much for having me this evening.
Definitely. Harolyn Blackwell is one of the brightest stars on stages in the United States and abroad. She's a charismatic soprano, and she's been hailed by audiences and critics alike as a model of agility, spunk, charm, and silvery tone. Following studies at the Catholic University of America in her native city, her home, Washington, D.C., Miss Blackwell's performing career began on the Broadway stage in Leonard Bernstein's revival of West Side Story. The transition from musical theater to opera occurred shortly thereafter, where she was selected as a finalist for the Metropolitan Opera National Council auditions. Since that time, the soprano has performed with many of the major national and international opera companies and festivals around the world. She's appeared with many of the most distinguished orchestras in the United States and abroad. Miss Blackwell has appeared in a remarkable number of national telecasts, including the Grammy Awards. She's also the recipient of numerous awards and honorary doctorates. Carolyn Blackwell is a board member of the Metropolitan Opera Guild, the Voice Foundation, the Martina Arroyo Foundation, the George London Foundation, and the Morgan Library. She's a member of the Artists Committee for the Kennedy Center Honors and has also served on the Artist Selection Committee for the Marian Anderson Competition and the NEA Awards. I could go on and on and on about this phenomenal human being. Can we welcome again Harolyn Blackwell? Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I am absolutely thrilled to be here with you.
Awesome.
And with him.
Next, I'd like to introduce my friend, clarinetist Anthony McGill. Anthony McGill is one of classical music's most recognizable and brilliantly multifaceted figures. He serves as the principal clarinet of the New York Philharmonic, and he's that orchestra's very first African-American principal player. And he maintains a dynamic international solo and chamber music career. McGill also serves as an ardent advocate for helping music education reach underserved communities and for addressing issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion in classical music. He was honored to take part in the inauguration of President Barack Obama, premiering a piece written for the occasion by John Williams, and he performed alongside violinist Itzhak Perlman, cellist Yo-Yo Ma, and pianist Gabriela Montero. McGill appears regularly as a soloist with top orchestras around the world and has led tours with some of the greatest musicians. A graduate of the Curtis Institute of Music, Anthony McGill previously served as the principal clarinetist of the Metropolitan Opera and associate principal clarinet of the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra. In demand as a teacher, he serves in the faculty of the Juilliard School, the Curtis Institute of Music, and Bard College's Conservatory of Music. He also serves as the artistic director for the Music Advancement Program at the Juilliard School, on the board of directors for both the League of American Orchestra and the Harmony Program, and the Advisory Council for the Interschool Orchestras of New York. Can you welcome my guest, Anthony McGill?
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
And tonight, the topic is the performing artist as educator. And I want to mention also that Harolyn Blackwell is also on the faculty with me at the Manhattan School of Music. In addition to that, she's on the faculty at New York University, and I believe it's Barnard Columbia University. Is that correct?
Barnard Columbia, yes.
Yes. So, for all of our viewers, I really had to determine tonight and think if I was still going to have this episode because of all of the things that are going on in our country, in our nation, in the world. And this perhaps may be a little uncanny for many, but because this is Blackout Tuesday, it's an initiative that many have started and have followed on social media. I decided that this would be a great episode to go on with because I am lifting up and championing the work, the excellence, and the successes of the career of two phenomenal Black, African American, however you want to say it to be politically correct, artists, human beings, performing artists, and those are just right here with us now, Harolyn Blackwell and Anthony McGill. So there are a lot of people signing on, and I can't believe that the wonderful soprano Karen Slack, she just finished her own platform. Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you for people like Karen Slack and
Yes.
McCoy,
Yes.
also Laquita Mitchell, soprano, and also Larry Brownlee, people that are using their platform during this time of being sequestered and somewhat locked in, as we're all trying to stay safe and stay healthy, but they're using their platform, as well as Kenneth Overton, who's one of the founders of Opera Noir, to make sure that people have an inside view of what it takes to do what we do.
Yeah.
So I'd like to start with this first question, as we also have a shout out from Anne Marie Hudley Simmons, who happens to be the president, the national president of the NAM organization, the National Association of Negro Musicians.
Yes.
So first of all, I'd like to ask this question and pose it to both of you. Many performing artists experience major triumphs in their lives and careers that we consider to be defining moments. What would you say are 1 to 2 defining moments in your life and career? We'll start with you, Harolyn.
I think the first defining moment was when I was in 9th grade, when I discovered that I had a voice and that I could finally have the opportunity to express myself with my voice, and that I could give to people and make them feel comfortable, give them something that they could feel great about at the end of the day after singing to them. And I would say the other time would be when I came to New York City to do West Side Story. And that was a defining moment in my career in just changing who I was as a person. I really grew during that period of singing in West Side Story, which really, in many respects, enabled me to move on to the next aspect of my career, which was as an opera singer. So I would say those were the 3 defining moments in my life. Was when my voice teacher discovered I had a voice, and I was a very shy child. So it gave me the opportunity all of a sudden to express myself. And then, as I said, coming here to do West Side Story, and then that leading into my operatic career.
Wonderful. And Anthony, could you also answer that same question? 1 to 2 defining moments in your life and career.
Yeah, I think one of the first one would be when I tackled one of the hardest pieces in the repertoire when I was a teenager, and from that moment on, I realized, and I set a goal to win the concerto competition at my school at the time, which was the Interlochen Arts Academy. And I set a goal to practice like a certain amount of hours a day. That was a lot more than I'd ever practiced before. And I set a goal to actually accomplish this thing that was really difficult. And I dedicated myself so much that summer. And I remember just spending time literally learning how to practice one note at a time, just one note at a time. And through that, the next year, the following year, I actually won the concerto competition. And I think it was the moment that I realized that I could do it. I could set that goal that was way above where I thought I was, and I could accomplish it. So that's the first one. And then number 2 is I think it would have to be being up there at the inauguration for President Obama, and seeing and looking out and seeing the world out there on that cold day in January. And that moment I'll never forget, but it's a moment that I know we all saw history being made, and I knew that no other moments were ever going to live up to that particular moment in my life. So those are my two.
Awesome. I'm going to bring Harolyn back in. Yes. So question number 2. This is for both of you. How do you juggle being a performing artist and an educator simultaneously? We'll start with you, Harolyn.
I have to say, in the beginning, it was rather difficult. It was really very difficult. But over the years, I've learned that the teaching really has enhanced my performing, and that somehow I had to find a way to be able to do both. And in the beginning, when I was doing a great deal of opera, it was rather tricky. But as I started to do more concert work, it became easier. So I almost made a decision to really start concentrating more on the concert work so that it would enable me to be there with my students, because the first couple of years was very difficult, and it really hurt me that I couldn't be there for their recitals, I couldn't be there for their juries. And I thought, if I'm going to do this, I have to find another way that I have to be able to balance both of these. And so that's how I was able to do it. And again, it has enhanced my performing career immensely. Teaching. It's amazing how you go there and you go, I'm not quite doing that. Let me go back and correct that myself. So no, it has been, as I said in the beginning, it was really difficult, but then it's now I have to do both. It's a part of who I am.
Yeah, I see we've been joined by other performing artist educators like my friend mezzo-soprano Patrice Eaton and Dr. Elizabeth Swanson. And also, as we're coming to you, Anthony, it's great we have one of the faculty members or former students at Juilliard, the great pianist, Major Andres Skulark. So Anthony, for you, how do you juggle being a performing artist and an educator simultaneously?
Yeah, I think just like Ms. Blackwell said, I think it's really that one enhances the other. That I feel like a lot of times when I am teaching, I'm teaching myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm saying something that I know that maybe someone once said to me, or I say it slightly different, and then it comes back to me. And so there's this mirror thing that your student is a mirror of yourself in a way, and the problems that they're facing, that you've either faced them or you haven't, and you need to discuss how they can actually deal with the same kind of issue. So it's a learning process when you're teaching in a way, that you're learning not only how to teach properly or better and get better and better at your teaching skills, but you're also learning how to become a better student while you're teaching. And that has been a really helpful tool for me to actually give me, in a way, more confidence when I perform, because I have a lot of lessons. I have a lot of lessons every week. And not only do I have to have some sort of that positive confidence to get through that problem, to help my students figure out that problem for them, I can do that with myself. And so it gives me a sense of that I have been practicing a lot when I am in there within the lesson in the studio with my students, you know. Like I've been practicing.
And I think sometimes the answers that you can't find for yourself, all of a sudden that answer is presented to you as you are working with your student. I find that to be the case so many times. I go, oh, yes. Now that's what I have to go back and do.
Exactly. It works the other way too. I know sometimes I've been performing or on tour and I said, oh, this is what I was actually trying to convey to the student. So let me actually put that into practice. It does happen that way for us. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is such an appropriate question with what's going on now. each of you have risen to the top of your field, and you both continue to soar extremely high. How have you avoided distractions and negativity along the way? I know in the last episode, I referenced a video that the great Leontine Price, she was being interviewed, and she said that she doesn't really focus on the negativity. I know my mentor, Wynton Marsalis, has always told me that he does not read what the music critics write about him. He's not concerned about that. He has to stay focused and do what he's called to do and what he's here on the earth to do. And then my mentor, Jesse Norman, I believe you're wearing, you can show the emblem, Harlan.
I don't know if you can see the emblem.
Yeah.
Stand up a little bit. I don't know if you can see. There it is.
There it is, everybody.
Jesse Norman.
Yes.
Oh, there we go. Can you see it?
Yeah.
She would always tell people that she wasn't focused on mediocrity or what other people thought of her career, what they thought about what she would choose for repertoire or what she was doing. So I'm sure that there are a lot of people curious who are watching, but again, how have you all avoided distractions and negativity along the way? We'll start with you, Harolyn.
Well, first of all, I have found my team, my village, those people I really trust who are going to give me constructive criticism. I've always said there's two forms of criticism. There's destructive criticism and constructive criticism. And constructive criticism is someone telling me this is a problem, but let me help you fix it. A destructive criticism is someone saying that just doesn't work. Okay, end of story. So what has helped me is that I have that team that I really depend on. That is my voice teacher, my coach, my husband, to really give me that constructive criticism. And you, in many respects, you have to put on blinders. You just have to put on blinders and just know that what is my journey and how I'm going forward with that journey. Know what my goals, what my aspirations are, and I'm just continuing towards that journey. So I always say, I go back to my 3 Ps. I always go back to prayer, perseverance, and practice. Those 3 things help me to take out all that negative stuff along with my village. So, and it's hard. It's really, really difficult. I like Wynton. I don't read the critics. I don't read what they have to say. I don't. I just have to say, okay, I'm going to be honest with myself. What went well, what didn't go well. I go back to my team, give me your notes, and then I go forward. So that's how I deal with it. And
This was great. This was great. So you mentioned your team. Mm-hmm. You mentioned, I'll pull Anthony in for this before he responds. You mentioned your team, which happened to be your teacher, mm-hmm. your coach, mm-hmm. and your husband. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are wondering at this stage in the game, you are a Metropolitan Opera singer. You have performed on Broadway. You've performed around the world with the top orchestras, and you are a master teacher at one of the top music conservatories in the world. You have a teacher? Oh
yes. Until I sing that last note, I will have a teacher because I need it. I feel for myself that I always need another set of ears. And so that has always been important to me because there are things I can't hear myself. And there are things that I always have to learn about my voice. It's changing, some days I said not day by day, but hour by hour. so, and they're different, and your experiences with life is also reflected in your voice. So those changes you have to take into consideration. And again, personally for me, I need another set of ears because often what I find when I'm in a voice lesson, what I've been saying to my student, all of a sudden my teacher is saying to me, and I go, yeah, I know that now. I know better than that. So personally, that has always been important for me to have my teacher there. and my coach. Yeah, absolutely.
That's excellent. And for you, Anthony, I love how now we're juxtaposed with you and I on the outside and Harlan.
Oh, two gorgeous men, two gorgeous Black men. What can I ask for?
Anthony, how have you avoided distractions and negativity along the way?
Distractions? What are those? No, no. I actually I think some of that is how I grew up with my brother Damari and our parents, what they taught us, and some of that was honestly it was positivity at all costs. So we weren't allowed to say can't in our house. What do you mean you can't do something? No, you might be having trouble with it, but you can always do something. And I think the things that they had to overcome in their lives taught us how to kind of always go for that positive thing, to always be glass half full. That was the first thing. The second thing is that, of course, as we know, it's not always easy to do that. As Harolyn, you mentioned, that it's not easy at all to do that. So part of that process is actually acknowledging what the distraction is like acknowledging where the negativity is coming from. Some of that negativity is coming from here. Sometimes it comes from others. It can come from many different places, right? And the distractions can come from everywhere. They can come from the news. They can come from the reality of our lives. They can come from society. The issue, and I think the thing that I've had to do, and it takes a lot of energy to do so, is that I've had to constantly, as Harolyn mentioned, not just, and actually in addition to the blinders, what she talked about, which is the work, which is the practice, which is to focus kind of inward in a way that is aware, but is also blind.
Right.
To focus in a way that you actually focus through the noise, so that you have a singular goal that you want to accomplish. And actively know that if you get distracted by all of these other issues, by all these other things going on inside, outside, that you will be taken off the path towards success for that thing.
Right.
And I've seen that, I've done that every time, and it's hard, and every day. Sometimes you have to do it every day. You have to look in the mirror and say, you deserve this. You've worked for this. You have to give yourself more reasons to succeed in the face of all of these distractions. And beyond that, that's why this has been very difficult in a way for me as a musician and a performing artist as well. This time is that I'm used to filling up that time with that energy of focus, not like driving forward all the time. Just go, go. That has actually helped me to not get distracted. But now that we're seated here and we are calm, you can appreciate what's been going on, day by day of your whole life and career. So that's kind of the process there.
That's awesome. So for many artists of color, particularly Black artists, there's always a resonating common tone of community. What is the significance of community in your lives, and how has it positively contributed to your development? Harlan, for you, what does that mean to you? What is community to you? I know you just mentioned as far as approaching performances and avoiding distractions and negativity, you said you have your voice teacher, you have your coach, and you have your husband. But expanding even outside of that, what does community mean or look like for you, or what has it been for you, and how has it shaped your development?
The community, I grew up in Washington, D.C. when it was truly the chocolate city. So that community was so strong. I attended Catholic University, but I spent a lot of time at Howard University.
HU.
Okay, so so that community, to know that yes, I was at Catholic University, but I could go to my community at Howard University and be with my brothers and my sisters and understand, and they could understand what I was going through, that we all could understand what we were going through. My parents, my parents, both are educators, so it's and I come from a long line of educators, as a matter of fact. So they have always been there from the beginning, and they instilled in us that, whatever you decide to do, you do to the best of your ability. That is what's important. You do to the best of your ability, and you do that with love, respect, and compassion for everyone. So, and then to have that core. My mother's 91 years of age, and I thanked her the other day.
Wow.
I said, thank you, Mommy. Thank you for always being there. And I remember one day I was in the middle of a discussion with, two other women were discussing about their family situation. And I called her up and I said, thank you, thank you, thank you. She said, what is wrong with you? I said, just thank you for saying no. Thank you for being there. Thank you for always supporting me. And like you said, my parents said, can't is not a word in your vocabulary. It's not a word in your vocabulary. So when you have that, and then you come from a very strong Black community, like Washington, D.C., where, we have family members who are lawyers, doctors, but everyone in our community, even down, even to the guy on the street, my father, who's sitting down the street, just shooting the breeze with my father. That man was just as important in raising me and teaching me about life. That's what community is all about. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all my sisters, my brothers, my uncles, my aunts, my grandmothers, and I mean every Black grandmother, every Black grandfather. I wouldn't be here today. So wonderful. I'm here standing on all of their shoulders. That's wonderful. Community.
Wonderful. Before I let you respond, Anthony, you brought up a point that reminds me, driving in New York City, particularly driving down Broadway, and talking to my parents about completing my master's thesis. And I stopped and pulled the car to the side and tried to find a space to park. I actually had to double park. And I just wanted to let my parents know that I wanted to just say thank you. And for me, as a performing artist, as an educator, because my parents were both school teachers, elementary school teachers, there were so many things that came in my life that came at me that I experienced, things that happened, and it made me say, wow, my parents told me about this. They prepared me for this. And, we're also so blessed and fortunate to have that sense of community. I was able to go to Washington, D.C., that has a great community itself, going to a historically Black college and university. But even New York City, coming here, I remember my first time hearing Lawrence Brownlee perform at the Metropolitan Opera. It was the principal trombonist at the Metropolitan Opera, Weston Sprott, who invited me and said, we'll come backstage and meet Larry. And then he said, you can come and go to, they just went out to eat. It wasn't a formal dinner. And that's where I met Anthony McGill there. And Anthony, I have seen so many documentaries and videos about you and your brother, Damare, the flautist. I believe he's older, right? And you're younger. Yeah. But also, I've seen so many of those videos where you both have shared information and you both have communicated how your parents really were in your life. I remember my father would drive me to piano lessons. He didn't understand everything that was going on, but he would say, you're not practicing correctly. That note wasn't right. Go back to that line. Go back to that part. I'm like, you mean that measure? Well, whatever you're saying, that measure, that bar. And if it wasn't for our parents allowing us to take the lessons, investing in us, giving us a safe place to stay, you know, and we see that as educators, that students that have that sense of community, it helps prepare a launching pad for their careers and for their life. And for those students that don't have the same fortunate community, you know, in their home or where they're coming from, we have to become that community.
Yeah.
We have to go beyond just being the teacher, the professor, the educator, the mentor, and we have to become that community, that family. Even now during COVID-19, I'm constantly texting and emailing my students. Are you okay? Are you, you know, is everything okay? You know, where you are? I hope you're, you know, staying safe. If you are protesting, all these types of things. And Anthony, can you also share about the resonating common tone of community and the significance of community in your life? You can mention your parents, your brother. I mean, I'm sure he was also a mentor to you, you know, because he was the older brother, and how that has positively contributed to your development.
Yeah, it's hard to, I can't even say anything. You all answered the question beautifully. And the only thing I can add is a little bit of a story about my family, but also something else in particular. This question was prompted to us when one of our final weeks at MAP, Music Advancement Program at Juilliard, that I'm artistic director of, we prompted it to our kids. There are about 70 kids in the program, and we were all on Zoom every Saturday morning until the end of the year. We were on Zoom for our morning rally. It's in the afternoon when the COVID crisis hit, and we were talking to each other. And one of the questions was, what is community? And so most of the students typed in or chat in or talked to us and raised their hand. And there were so many beautiful answers for this. But what the collection of ideas and collection of it that I took from that conversation was the beauty of the different forms of community that can help us, help lift us up. And some of that community is your neighborhood. Some of it's your community, Chicago. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. It was my neighborhood. But my community was held within that neighborhood and within different neighborhoods. And so my community is made up of my parents, first and foremost, my brother, but also my immediate mentors who were mentors and friends who were a part of my family of young Black musicians on the south side of Chicago who played in the group called the Chicago Teen Ensemble. That was my first sense of community in the music world. And then that branched out to the youth orchestra downtown and to the Merit School of Music, where I had mentors and people that loved me. And part of this community that can be expanded beyond your immediate family, that, that I was lucky to have, and I wouldn't be here without at all, are all those people that loved me and lifted me up along the way and gave me those opportunities and believed in me. So I believed in myself, so that I was able to actually absorb all of that energy, all of that positivity, all of that support, and be able to continue doing something that it seemed like I wasn't supposed to be doing at every turn of my life. And so that community is very large. That community just kept expanding as I got older. So it expands to some of the people chatting in to this talk via Facebook. Those become your community as you leave home. The people that love you, the people that support you, you don't even have to talk to them very much, but you know that they are a part of your community. And that's really great, is that you surround yourself mentally with those people. And then you are never alone. And that's kind of what I felt, that I've been lucky that family has just kept expanding, and it's a beautiful one. And as you mentioned in this crisis, that we're all kind of like, we can actually come together a little bit in this with the stress of everything happening and actually connect. And that's beautiful, because I don't get to connect with my family as much as I want to, but you guys are my community.
Definitely. I saw, Harolyn, I saw you shaking your head. and I think I tapped the well, so to speak, earlier when I was sharing before you spoke, Anthony. And I would love to have you say something else about that, Harolyn. What do you feel is your role, or just describe your role as the educator becoming that community? We're talking about the community for ourselves, the people that are around us, but in what ways have you become the community? Presently, I believe at the Manhattan School of Music, you're one of the only, or the only African-American person in the vocal department, classical vocal department. Anthony, I was reading in your biography, I know there have been other African-American musicians such as Sanford Allen in the New York Philharmonic, but what I believe I read, and you can correct me if I am not right, is that you are the first African-American principal in the New York Philharmonic. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was associate principal before me was Jerome Ashby.
Exactly. Yeah.
Section.
Yes.
Yes, but solo principal chair. Yes, I'm the first.
So can you all speak about that? The educators and the performing artists, but being that extension of community for other young people that look like you, that have grown up in Washington, D.C., in the urban area, are the city, the metropolitan life. Same thing with Chicago or the South Side of Chicago. What it's like for being that representation, being the example, being the light, being the compass for their career, for their life, even if they want to go outside of music. But can you talk about that a little bit as the educator, seeing the need for one having community? Anybody can speak up. Yeah.
Anthony?
Sure.
I'm always first. I'll let you.
Sure. I'll go first. Okay. I mean, this is the first responsibility as a teacher, I believe, more than any other responsibility, is that you do, as one of you all mentioned earlier, you do end up becoming a mentor to all of your students. You do become a confidant at times, and it's very important. So, I mean, I think that sense of actually being able to represent is something that I don't take for granted, because I actually meet students all over the country that I don't know, that tell me, they play for me in a master class, and they tell me, Mr. McGill, I've been looking at you since I was first started playing the clarinet, and I've been following your career, and I thank you for that. And when I first started hearing that, I was a little bit taken aback. I was like, oh, you kind of think, oh, I'm doing this, I'm working really hard. I'm new to the job. I'm doing it. But as time goes on, you realize that that's what you're doing. You're broadening that community. And by your words, by your action, by your playing, all of these things, and by your teaching, that especially now in today's world with the internet, that all of my students, all of the people that aren't my students, and all of the students that I don't know that also look like me and don't, they're listening to these conversations I'm having. And so in a way, whenever I'm communicating or playing my music, I'm sharing that openness of community with them. And to hear that appreciation from them is amazing. So I'll tell anybody listening out there that's not my student, that I don't know, that I'm proud of all of you too, for what you're doing, because that's inspiring to me.
Yeah. No, I think the important thing is I always feel that whatever situation I'm in, that we always have to learn something, and that I have to learn something and the student has to learn something. And so what I hope is that sometimes I say to my students, we're not having a voice lesson today, we're having a life lesson. So if I have at that moment given that student a life lesson that they're going to take with them wherever they go, that is what I feel my job as an educator is. It's just as about teaching the craft as with your voice, what have you, but it's also about the life lesson of being, again, a good human being being compassionate, being empathetic. And you will be surprised. Some students have never learned that. And then you have to sit there and really teach them and just explain to them what you just said, might really hurt someone. And here are the repercussions when you say something like that. So if that person walks out of my studio and said, oh, okay, I can't do that again. So educating them in the respect of, from the sense of the community, then I have taken that one person who's going to go back into the community, and it's going to be a ripple effect. And that's what we need today.
Mm-hmm.
That is what we need today.
Mm-hmm.
Is to go out and get that one person, that we change that person's mind, and they go back out there, and it's a ripple effect. It says, phew.
Definitely. That's a great statement. Wow. So as educators, what are your thoughts about arts education post-COVID-19? Or if you want to just jump in and say this coming fall semester. I'll let either one of you start. I know, Anthony, you said you were just on a call or having a meeting. I'm sure, like Harlan and I have been on several Zoom faculty meetings with our departments and with the Faculty Council at Manhattan School of Music. I know that you're meeting with the Music Advancement Program, as well as Juilliard, the college, the conservatory, the Juilliard School. Either one of you can jump in what your thoughts are about arts education post-COVID-19, or even what we should expect or look forward to this coming fall.
I think that, well, it's going to be interesting. I think everyone is just trying to figure out how to do this. And I think I think that through this platform that we have right now, we are going to be able to really reach a lot of people. I know it's going to be that one-on-one situation, and that we will return to. There's no question about that. But how do we take this platform, and how do we take it and make it better, and get the message across, again, about community, about the greatness of our art. And I think we're going to find creativity like you have never seen before. I think this is opening a door for more creativity from all of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And someone said to me, I had to do an interview a couple of weeks ago, and someone said, so what do you think is going to come out of this? I said, we're going to be bigger and we're going to be better.
Yes.
That's what's going to come out of this. And the creative forces, those juices are just going to be rolling and going, and we're just going to expand and get bigger and better.
Definitely. Anthony?
I love it. I can't say anything better than that. I'm just going to jump on that idea and say what we've kind of discovered at Curtis and Juilliard, where I teach, and just thinking about these. We've had all these meetings about scheduling and what we're going to do and all this stuff. What we've learned, especially in the math program, is that the last 2 months were possibly more connected, except for like some of the bad mics and the miking issues and some of the latency and the delays and all that stuff that everybody knows about. All that stuff we know about, right?
Yes.
Except for all that stuff, technological stuff, I think it showed us we could come together as a community and do big stuff. So I think Harolyn is right. I think that if we know that we can do what we just did and we can do better, that the sky's the limit for the amount of creation that can happen. Also, the access to other musicians, the access to great teaching and great players and singers and everything and leaders. you know, I saw Larry Brownlee on here earlier. Hey, Larry, if you're still here. And he came and talked to our pre-college and our math program, our Juilliard prep division. And the stuff I learned from his call was unbelievable. The stuff I took away from that. And I'm one of the teachers and the artistic director. I mean, I was taking notes, just straight up taking notes, because to have access to all of our minds, to have access to other people's voices and creativity and just your mind, and to be here getting a masterclass with you, Carolyn Blackwell, and to be here with you, Damien, learning, it's awesome. I think it's really special.
Yeah. 100%. I agree with you 100%. That this has truly been the beauty about. I said to my kids one day, okay, here's the deal. We've been given some lemons. We're gonna make some delicious lemonade, and we're gonna take a sip and sing. So let's go.
Definitely.
Okay. So that we can come back. I mean, when we come out of this, we are going to be. We're going to be blazing on the other side.
Exactly. So, in reflection, if either of you had the opportunity to speak to yourself in 9th grade, entering high school, what advice or wisdom would you give to that 9th grade freshman Harolyn, or that 9th grade freshman Anthony?
Wow.
Who wants to jump in?
Had to think about that.
I know what I'm gonna say.
Okay, Anthony.
I'm gonna say, don't listen to them. That's what I would say. And fortunately, I don't think I did. But I would say you're gonna be okay. And don't listen to them. And keep playing that clarinet.
Right.
Yes.
I think I would have said to myself, trust yourself. Trust your instincts. God has given you a gift. He will show you the way. And exactly, because there were all these distractors, these people distracting, people saying things. And at that age, you want to be a part of the group and you want to listen. And I think, and eventually I had to learn how to trust myself, trust my instinct, and trust that God would put me in the right place at the right time. And he has done that every time. Every time he's done that for me. So.
Definitely.
Don't make me cry, please. Just please. I can't do it again today. I cannot do it again today.
Oh, I had it last night. I had it last night. Just and it is. It's very, very. It's very difficult to at that age. And exactly what you said earlier, Anthony. Even yes, every once in a while it gets in there. It gets in there. It gets into that. It gets in those little cells, and you just have to say, "Stop. Stop."
Yes.
Trust him. Trust yourself. He will show you the answer. Now, Damien, he showed you the answer, didn't he?
Yes. Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
That's why we're here today.
That's true. Very true.
Okay.
Harolyn, before I open it up for questions, we have such a large cadre of phenomenal, exquisite, consummate, experienced artists that are watching, that are sharing, that are asking questions. This is something I'd love for you to do. Can you talk a little bit about what you have coming up next? I'd like to nudge you a little bit, particularly, and if you could maybe speak about the Ciceretta Jones project, something that you're working on with my mentor, the late, great phenom, the monogene, the Jesse Norman. Can you talk a little bit about that?
First of all, yes. And first of all, I have to say that I miss her every day. I miss her every day. And we, um, Miss Norman and Adina Williams and I started working on this project. Rather, the two of them started working on this project several years ago, about the life of Ciceretta Jones. And we have this project now. And then I came along, meeting Adina at an HBO gala that Wynton Marsalis. So she was there for Wynton Marsalis. So that's why I'm saying how the stars align. It's really, that's why I'm saying sometimes I just say, get out of the way, get out of the way. But the project it's about the life of Ciceretta Jones. And we've been very fortunate. We've received 2 grants from the Ford Foundation. And we are now in the process of putting the script together for the project. And hopefully we'll be doing it in the 21 season with several companies that we are now in discussion with, and sponsors. And on June 24th, there is on American Masters series a program called Unladylike 2020. And it talks about, being that this is the year of the woman, that different women who are trailblazers in their particular field, and they have an episode based on the life of Ciceretta Jones. And I was interviewed, and Janae Bridgers was interviewed. And so, as I said, that's going to be on PBS on June 24th. So Miss Norman gave us the guidance. She gave us the blueprint. And there are moments when I just kind of go, or we both go, what are we supposed to do next? And it happens. Right. So I know that Miss Norman, Jesse's up there, and Sissy is up there, and the two of them are going, okay, you just go ahead.
Most definitely.
They're guiding us. They're guiding us with the good Lord. So we really know it's a project that we've worked on for several years now, and really we're about to launch it and take it to the next step. So we're ecstatic about what's happening with this project. It's for Ciceretta Jones' legacy as well as Miss Norman's legacy. This is what this project is for us at this point.
And that's how I met you, actually, at Miss Norman's favorite restaurant, Chez Josephine.
Exactly.
Where, and I was amazed that you were such a, not amazed that you had humility, because I'd heard a negative comment about you, but for someone of your stature, you were so down to earth and so approachable in that moment. And then we saw each other again at one of the Sphinx galas.
Exactly.
I think another Washington, D.C. native and another person who serves on the artistic board and I believe the board of trustees at Manhattan Music, the great trumpet aficionado,
Terrence Blanchard,
and film composer,
yes.
composer, opera composer, Terrence Blanchard, and we had a chance to meet there. And I appreciate that. I appreciate Miss Norman for her contributions.
Oh, yes.
And the Sphinx organization, I mentioned them in the last episode. That's another connection that you and I have, Anthony. You know, you were the first class of Sphinx Medal of Excellence.
Wow.
Such an honor to follow in your footsteps. I believe Stanford Thompson was another one. I'm not sure who the third person was. You can speak to that. But what type of things do you have coming up? I was so enamored just now with your speaking, Harolyn Blackwell, just what you were sharing, and I'm a little emotional just thinking about the legacy of those who we stand upon the shoulders of, you know, Jesse Norman and so many other great people. You mentioned Jerome Ashby, the horn player. There's so many great people who have gone on before us. Marian Anderson, so many great musicians. Anthony, now what things do you have coming up? But I want to say this, you've done something that is absolutely amazing. I remember back in October, I think October 9th, 2017, the son of the tenor Michael Austin and altoise Devon, Justin Michael Austin, I was able to play with him for his Carnegie Hall debut. And around that time, there was a lot of noise around Copernic taking a knee. And so we were performing my arrangement of the spiritual "Oh Freedom," and Justin had an idea the night of the Carnegie Hall debut for us to take a knee. And I had to look at the photo that I posted. I had to find something to protect my knee because I'm like, I can't sit on my knee that long. And he went to the American flag and knelt at the flag. It was a very poignant, powerful, moving moment. And I was kneeling at the piano. And even though I was the accompanist, Justin kept saying, I really want you to sing with me. And we sang in unison to show unification and to show solidarity. And it was so moving. People were crying in the audience. I was verklempt. I was just totally moved into an ethereal place of emotion. But you've done something, Anthony, and it has spread like wildfire. I know I'm asking you about what's coming up in the future, but you just took the initiative to say that you care about Black lives by taking two knees. And you so beautifully played your instrument, and so many other great musicians and singers and so many people have followed your lead. And, you know, that is a great example of the artist being an educator, but not just to the student in the classroom, the brick and mortar conservatory or college, but as artists, we have to also educate and teach in a didactic way to the world. And you've done that. And can you please share about that? And I'm sorry I didn't get to all the comments. There's a definitely a feeling of connectivity now in this dialogue episode, because we're touching on topics that are really near and dear to our hearts. And can you speak about that, Anthony, about what you have coming up, but also this awesome initiative that you started on social media?
Yeah. So, you know, we've been spending, as a musician and artist, we've been spending a lot of time alone at home, not performing in the big halls. I play in the orchestra mainly with 100 people on the stage, and just my family, my wife and my child. And I've had a lot of time to just think about myself as an artist and what I stand for. And I woke up the other day and I thought about that. I thought back to what Colin Kaepernick was trying to do and how I believe it got twisted. It got, people like to twist protest so it distracts us from the issue that they're trying to fix, the problem that they're trying to solve. They talk about the circumstance surrounding the protest instead of the problem that we should all be trying to solve actively. And so I woke up thinking about that, how he took down one knee and all that people could talk about was the flag and the football and distracting the games. But we got distracted. We all got distracted by what he was trying to protest, what he was trying to say with that motion. And in the most peaceful way, too. And so I reacted to that just one morning, just last week. It was it got really heated just generally, but I didn't know I was going to do that. And I was like, take two knees. What is it going to take for us to actually listen to what the problem is? So that's why I decided to take two knees, because, you know, everybody complained about the one knee. You know? So how about if we do two knees? We're down on our knees. You know, I feel like that's where we are right now.
Yes. Wow.
And so that's what I did. That, and then the playing and the writing came along after. But that was my thought beyond it. Let's not get distracted again by, there's nothing to distract us. We're all at home. We're supposed to be at home at least.
Yes.
You know? So maybe we shouldn't be, there shouldn't be an excuse now. Right. To do something and to face it head on, which is our problem, our collective American sickness and problem.
Yes.
So that's what that was about. That's what that is about. And I hope everyone looks at some of those videos and cries like a baby, like I do every time I see one of them.
Wow.
All the dedications that have come in. It's touching. And moving hearts is very important.
Absolutely.
Extremely important.
So that's what I've been up to. And I have a recital, home recital coming up, sponsored by the Detroit Chamber Music Society and the University of Chicago on June 26th. So that should be nice. And unfortunately, people like you and Karen and others and Philadelphia Inquirer later this week, Thomas Hampson, doing all these interviews and stuff, and just kind of having these great conversations with you beautiful people I respect. And I'm lucky and I'm happy to do it. So I have a few of those coming up this week, even later. But this is really beautiful, and I appreciate you for giving us a platform to speak about these things.
Definitely.
Yes, Damien. Thank you. Thank you. This has just been, I saw last week, and I was just so moved, and with what both the artists, Janae and I'm sorry, what's the other artist's name?
Titus Underwood, the
That's
oboist.
Titus. I'm sorry, the oboist. I'm sorry. And I was just so moved and so grateful for you giving us this platform and for letting us to come together as a community to discuss these things. Again, this is the beauty of what has happened out of this awful situation.
Definitely.
And it's interesting. A friend called me last week and said, I'm doing this recording called Artists in Residence during the COVID. And would you participate? And I said, yes, in a second, I'm there. And so he's got an artist from the opera world as well as the musical theater world, and with different composers from musical theater world and the opera world. And it's coming out June 26th. So,
amazing.
And it's, I went artists in residence. That's what we are. I got, what a wonderful spin on the words, on the title. And, yeah, so that's what I'm saying. This, we're grateful for you, for everyone who's doing their I wouldn't say duty, but helping us to keep our voices out there. Keep our voices out there. That's what we have to do. It's the artists that make the change. We are the ones.
Artists are the ones who make the change. They bring the revolution.
Exactly.
Because music is a universal language.
Absolutely.
And also, I do believe it is our duty. It's our responsibility because we've been gifted by the gifter with so many wonderful gifts to change people's hearts and minds. And on that note, the song that you and I both barely made it through at Jesse Norman's funeral in Augusta, I just want to recite the words of that. And while I'm doing that, if you all have any questions, those of you that are watching, please type your questions into the comments and I'll try to get to them. But I just want to say this, it's so apropos for now. There's a place for us. Somewhere, a place for us. Peace and quiet and open air. Wait for us somewhere. There's a time for us. Someday there'll be a time for us. Time together with time to spare. Time to learn, time to care. Someday, somewhere, we'll find a new way of living. We'll find there's a way of forgiving. Somewhere, somewhere there's a place for us, a time and a place for us. Hold my hand and we're halfway there. Hold my hand, and as artists, it's our job, so I'll take you there. Somehow, someday, somewhere.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from anyone? Wow, with such a moving moment. It's interesting how a song, how music, even a song without words, as Mendelssohn penned in his solo piano literature, even whether it's a concerto, no matter what it is, something about music has the ability to encapsulate emotion.
Absolutely.
And it's like, it's in suspended animation. It allows us to move beyond what we're actually seeing in the moment and hope and long that we can find the joy and the effervescent connectivity that comes from a performance.
Thank you.
Wow.
Perfect.
Well, it
Absolutely.
looks like there are no questions this week.
I think you did it.
I think you said it all.
You said it all.
Another phenomenal artist out of the DMV, the Washington, D.C., Maryland area. I've spent so many years listening to her sing. I'm sure you all have heard of her. Harolyn, her name is Janice Chandler Ateme. She's beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful voice, beautiful gift. I mean,
Beautiful
every time
person.
she sits in her living room or her kitchen and she'll sing a hymn, or I'm hearing her sing the music of Adolphus Hellstork.
Yes.
And I've always been moved. And she has such a beautiful spirit. She has a question for you.
Yes.
And she's also a performing artist and educator, taught on the faculty at the Morgan State University and also Baltimore School of the Arts. She said, Harolyn, will you write a book about your career? That's her question.
Wow. Wow. I've never really thought about that. Isn't it funny?
You have to.
I guess because I'm always like in the moment, and I'm always in the moment, and maybe it's just something I just have to. Yes.
This is your moment.
This is my moment.
Now.
This is my moment. Okay, Janice. This is my moment. Let me pull out my pad and just start writing down all these things. You just gave me the permission to do it. Thank you. It's yes, this is the moment. What better other time? I mean, usually you're going from place to place to place, you're going to the next thing, but yeah, this is the time to sit down and reflect and really put all this down. Thank you, Janice. I love you. I see all my friends out there. I'm going, oh my God, this is like a home week. This is like, you know what? This is like a Howard homecoming.
Exactly. Okay, Anthony, I know we touched on this, but I'll post this question and ask it again. Maybe you can respond. As musicians and artists, what techniques or musical challenges are you currently working on or working through? So what are you doing in your technique? You know, years ago, I played clarinet from 5th through 12th grade. My embouchure is completely out of place. And I used to play, I think, up to a 4.5 reed, and probably now everything is messed up. What are you working on technically?
I am working on one of the most valuable parts of being an artist right now. And that is appreciating every second I spend at home with my daughter.
Yes.
And my family. That's what I'm working on right now. That's awesome. That's the technique I'm working on. It's called daddying. It's called Daddy Doesn't Have to go a concert tonight. It's called Daddy Doesn't Have to leave for a rehearsal in the morning.
Balance. Yes.
It's called Daddy's going upstairs to have a talk and go in a room, but she's asleep now. But you know, that's what I'm working on.
Wow.
Now,
Bravo. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Absolutely beautiful.
That's beautiful. So before we close, Harolyn and Anthony, can you all please share, in that order? You can go first, Harolyn. What way can people stay in contact with you via your website? Because already you see there's a question, someone wants you to do a virtual masterclass for vocalists. But how can people stay in touch with you all through social media or through your website? Because a lot of people are interested in the initiatives and projects that you both have mentioned in this episode. So Harolyn, can you go first to tell us?
You can reach me through HarolynBlackwell.com, my website. Also through my NYU account, hbg2@nyu.edu. Also, you can reach me through the Woke Up Famous LLC.com. Woke Up Famous. That was what Jesse gave us, the name of our company.
Wow.
Because Sister Retta Jones, when after her Madison Square Garden concert, she was quoted as saying, "I woke up famous and didn't even know it."
Cool.
And as we were trying to find, what the name of the company would be, what our website would be, Jessica came up with that, and the three of us said, yes.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome.
so those three ways you can contact me. Please do. Please do. I look forward to being in contact with everyone. And thank you for being here today. Really. Thank you, everyone,
Definitely.
coming.
Anthony, and how about you? How can they stay connected to you through your website and our social media?
Yeah, just quickly, a quick story. I only got to take a quick photo with Jessie Norman, and that was it. I never got to know her, never got to meet her. But talk about your community of people that are following you and being inspired by you. For the first time I won the only time I won the Met job, the principal clarinet Met job, backstage, I wasn't practicing. I wasn't doing anything. I was listening to a recording of Jessie Norman in my headphones. That's
Wow.
what I did for my inspiration backstage.
Wow.
That final round of that audition.
Oh,
Okay, that's what I did for my practice.
I just got chills.
Yeah, well, it's true. This is what's going on in the world. Okay, you don't wake up famous for nothing. You're inspiring people. You've inspired so many beautiful singers in your life. Anyway, I'll go on. Just wanted to share that with you because
Brilliant.
you guys have personal relationships with her. Anyway, you can find me on Facebook on my fan page, which you can search for @McGill on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram at McGill Clarinet. And you can find me on Twitter at McGillAB. And you can find me on my website, AnthonyMcGill.com. I think that about covers it. I mean, there's so many of these different things that I don't know.
I haven't gotten to the Twitter yet.
I just want to personally thank both of you. Thank you to all the viewers who have been watching. There are going to be a lot of people who will be watching on demand. But thank you all so much for taking the time, even though we all are, supposed to be at home. But of course, as you said, Anthony, and also Harolyn, your family, your husband, and Anthony, your wife, thank you all for taking the time to share on this platform. I believe tonight on this episode, it's continuing to grow and build, but I definitely feel that there's been a connectivity and the spread of love, and also that people have been lifted and encouraged. And that is another thing that our responsibility is as a musician, as a singer, as a performing artist. It's our job to help encourage people and help uplift people. And you all have uplifted me. I look forward to seeing you all in the future when social distancing limitations have been lifted. And
Likewise.
I look forward to future collaborations that we've been speaking about.
Yes.
And scaling back and forth. So, now's the time, I guess, to get started. I need to get started writing stuff too. But thank you all so much. I really, really sincerely appreciate both of you.
Thank you.
And thank you all for what you have done and what you're doing, representing artists and representing just wonderful human beings in the world. We're all grateful. Thank you all so much. And I'm going to pull you all off just for a second because I'm super excited about the next episode, which will be Dialogues. Thank you so very much.